You are listening to Dishing Up Nutrition. I am Nancy Palm, nutrition educator, and I'm here this morning with Mary Freitag, licensed psychologist, and Darlene Kavis, licensed nutritionist, and we're discussing how you can use nutritional and psychological support to manage a chronic illness.
And before our break, Nancy, you were talking about some seminars that you developed to kind of help people think in a different way about a chronic illness, right?
Absolutely. I just started doing them this fall, and I'm doing them through community ed all over the Twin Cities. And the first one I'm doing is focusing on self-care strategies. So I look at things like, how do you establish a healthy routine? And you can imagine, Dar, that nutrition is right up there as the first piece of that, the first step.
Well, we
You've
would
taught
hope so.
me well. And
When these physical and mental health issues arise, people will stop doing even the most basic self-care stuff.
that's
which is
true. You can be
such as eating
overwhelmed.
breakfast. Right, right.
And so the first piece is to find healthy routines that work for you. And another part of that is setting reasonable expectations. I think it's important to set yourself up for success, not failure, in what you expect of yourself. And then finally, to make time for things that bring you joy every single day and for what matters most, so you have the quality of life that you would want.
You know, Mary, I know that your therapy sessions also stress self-care. And I think when we're working with people with chronic illness, many have actually kind of given up on life. And their big event, and I hear this all the time, is a visit to the doctor. And sometimes their big event, and I've heard this so many times, is getting out of bed and popping a Diet Coke open and drinking it. So how do you help people kind of change that thinking, somehow create a bigger reward in life than popping open a can of Diet Coke?
Oh my gosh, Dar, what a tough question. It's not just psychotherapy for some of the emotional issues. It's not just nutrition, and it's not just spiritual investment. It's a group effort. It's all of these things. And it's important to remember that it is very difficult to find a nutrition program such as yours, Dars, that will collaborate with practitioners and professionals such as myself and Nancy in the health and well-being of our patients and clients. So let me just say, what I say first is bravo to you for taking the first step of asking for help for change, or at the very least exploring what it is that one can do to have a life worth living. Because right now, if you're as miserable as you say you are, what you're doing just isn't working.
Well, I think what we need to do with that is, I think we should take a caller, because we actually have Sandy on the line. And Sandy, you have a question for us? Hi, Sandy.
I don't have a question. I have a comment. My husband was in hospice and near death. He still has cancer, but this was in 2004, and we put him on the macrobiotic diet and beta-glucan.
Mm-hmm.
And he hadn't been able to sit up. He was in a hospital bed, and he hadn't been able to stand. And within a week, he was able to stand and walk with assistance. And he just had a miraculous recovery from he graduated from hospice within 6 months of that. And he had been on that macrobiotic for a long time, but hadn't been able to gain weight. So he did go off of it, but he is still watching his intake of sweets and so forth so that he doesn't put sugar in his diet. But we wanted you to know that he had wonderful results with that and graduated from hospice. They thought he was going to die.
I think that is wonderful, Sandy. And I think what that does is it just tells you, again, the power of nutrition. And I think when you talk about macrobiotic, what it is you're cleaning out all that sugar, you're putting in lots of vegetables, you're putting in lots of healthy food. And our bodies, when we get healthy food and we get rid of the Diet Coke and the Cokes and all that stuff, our bodies respond to it, and we heal. It is actually, people can heal. And I think the thing is, like Nancy here's on the show today, her body is healed so that she can go ahead and live her life the way she,
absolutely.
And I think I congratulate you guys for taking the steps to do that. That's great.
Well, my husband is doing great right now.
That's
not
wonderful.
taking cancer
Fabulous.
treatment, even though there's no such thing as remission for his particular cancer.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's
See?
doing fabulously. He's walking with a cane and
Oh,
does
That's
everything that
terrific.
anybody else can do.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that
Oh,
wonderful
nutrition
story
is
of
really good.
willingness. That's fabulous. You're willing to look at alternatives. That's marvelous.
So, and one of the things I would recommend, Sandy, is to add some organic protein now. You know, some organic chicken or for some.
Oh, he has been taking
Okay.
chicken. That is part of his diet: chicken and fish and
Okay.
turkey.
All
No
right.
red meat.
And that'll make him
sugar.
stronger, and it'll
Yeah,
also support his immune system even more.
Yeah,
So-
and the beta-carotene supports the immune system as well. So we're really happy to have that.
Yes, that's great.
So,
Well, thank you
okay.
very much for the call. We appreciate it.
Best
Thank
of luck
you.
to you, Sandy.
So that was a neat story.
Wonderful.
And, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, we talk about self-care and we talk about how people can do things. And, you know, I always think about my granddaughter, Willow, because, you know, her first words was doing. She'd go all around the house saying, doing. And I guess I think that people are really meant to be doers. And I think that means living in the present and letting, you know, and, you know, Willow really lives that as a doer, and she is aware of everyone. She's aware of what they think, every movement, everything in her environment, and she's kind of the epitome of a doer.
A little bit like her grandmother.
So I think, you know, and that, again, people really want to be doers. Don't you think, Nancy?
Absolutely. I am not a passive one. I want to grab hold and run with things. But one of the things that I had to learn, and this wasn't an easy lesson when I had CFS, is to be less of a doer at times and slow down enough to rest, to take the time to cook balanced meals, to do things to just relax my body, to walk the dog, to take time for tea, to meditate, and just slow it down a little bit. And that was so hard for me to learn.
What a wonderful juxtaposition that the two of you just presented. I mean, Dar, you're talking about doing and the importance of that. And Nancy, you're talking about being. You're really talking about being. And so it's a balance of doing and being. And it's that balance that I help folks strive for. It's difficult because you're really making some tough changes, especially when you have some habits that are hard to undo.
I agree with you. And this is, you know, I struggle with this little bit myself, is that balance, because I am such a doer. And I also realize that when I am overdoing and I say, okay, Dar, you need to make sure that you are sleeping enough. You know, the eating I have down so well that nothing ever interferes with that. But the sleeping and the meditating, and that's one that I'm still working on myself, is to slow down a little bit. But, I think when you get to be 68 years old, you realize, these are the important things that I need to do for my own self-care. And I go ahead and do that so that, you know, everything continues to work and I can be here and be alive and enjoy life and all those things.
So what you're talking about is actually increasing your awareness of your choices and how your choices affected you.
And I think that's one of the things that you do very well, Mary, is in your sessions, you help people create an awareness almost of their body.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, we just missed out. We miss out on what our body is telling us at any given moment in time, and we end up making some pretty unhealthy choices, or we have impulsive responses to things.